tutorial, I try to set breaks where they do maybe a little bit of a breathing exercise or a little bit of meditation or just to stretch. And one of the activities that I have in the classroom is to use dice to simulate probability. So bringing in dice into the classroom for them to do something with their hands in order to get them to engage with the activity.
And sometimes it's a long day and you have it in the afternoon. What do you do to keep yourself really, enjoy it and really pumped up and have the energy? Do you have some techniques for that as well? Hi, everybody. Welcome to the academic room where inspiring educators share best practices about teaching. And today I'd like to welcome the wonderful Dr. Sandy Hassan, who is with us. Thank you for being here, Sandy, and thank you for accepting my invitation.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
And the first question is around that. So, Sandy, when you meet new students, are there any techniques, icebreakers that you use to first build a rapport with them when you have a new cohort at the beginning of a new semester?
Usually I start with my kind of introduction. I try to kind of explain my background, my expertise, and then I open up questions and introductions from the students. These usually work in smaller classrooms, so a bigger classroom of maybe or a whole of 200, 300 students, this might not really work as well. But in smaller classrooms, this is what I do. I kind of try to go around the classroom to learn about their names and maybe if they have industry experience, that would also help me around the discussions later on. So it helps a lot in breaking the ice between different students to know what industries they might have been working in before. And if they have been if they just graduated, for example, if they are fresh graduates, so I kind of also pinpoint or know where the fresh graduates are from, and I'm talking mainly about master's students here. So this is usually my approach, and it's quite useful in that sense. I don't really use any forced activities in the beginning of the first session because I feel like everyone's still overwhelmed with starting out something new. So I try to keep it as simple as possible with just names and maybe a little bit of their previous experience if there's any.
No, that's absolutely fine. Thank you. And are you able then to a little bit tailor? I appreciate when a big group, when there's a big group, it's impossible. But if with a smaller group, is it possible to tailor a little bit what you're saying to their previous experiences? You say that you explore this. Will this be useful in later on?
Absolutely. So one of the things that this can be useful in is when there is a little bit of disparity in the levels between students, whether that's in terms of experience or in terms of just returning to university after a break, for example, or after they've been in the industry for a while. So understanding where the strengths and the weaknesses of each student might be would help in afterwards kind of pairing up students, or within discussions, I might actually ask students with experience to fill in gaps and provide their experience. So on the topic, what they have experienced on that in their own work or in their job, for example. So they feel like they are contributing and filling in knowledge gaps in the classroom. And on the other hand, fresh graduates or students who have just finished their bachelor's degrees, they are more talented or skillful in how they approach assessments, how they manage their time, how to study, for example. So I would kind of try and ask them about their experience on how they tackle certain assessments or activities, or what they might be doing in terms of writing their assessments or managing their time, or what kind of resources they might be using to also fill in the gap for professionals returning to the classroom.
Oh, that's brilliant. So you have the kind of little body and both can add their strengths into the work. That's really, really amazing. And in terms of the lecture, let's just say that you have lecture and seminars. when I know that you prepare a lot, what kind of preparations do you do for a lecture, also for the seminar? And the second question related to that, how do you deliver a completely new topic to the class?
So usually whenever I'm preparing, I try to break the session into smaller delivery chunks or sections. Um, Usually what I feel when there is a longer session where it's over an hour, I lose the students' attention after maybe half an hour or so. So what I try to do is to design breaks and activities inside the session. So if it's a 2 hour session or a 2 hour lecture or seminar or tutorial, I try to set breaks where they do maybe a little bit of a breathing exercise or a little bit of meditation or just to stretch and walk around. So this is one thing. Another thing is the activities themselves. So not even if it's a lecture, I don't like to deliver the topic all throughout the 2 hours that I'm just talking, because I definitely lose the students and they lose interest and they get bored. So it's very important that I include activities, whether that's a question that they can discuss amongst themselves, or even if it's a small activity so that they can work together, discuss together. Maybe I provide them with prompts, for example, things that would help them. So for example, one of the activities that I have in the classroom is to use dice to simulate probability. So bringing in dice into the classroom for them to do something with their hands in order to get them to engage with the activity a little bit. I sometimes find, which I'm not really happy about, but sometimes I print out activities. So not to the whole classroom, but in terms of maybe if I have 5 groups or 7 groups, I print out 7 pages of what they need to be doing. So they engage and they write on the paper that gets them to engage. And I try to design this inside the lecture, and kind of make it clear that this is where I need to stop, because I can go on and I can keep on talking for a long time. So I have to indicate to myself and to the students as well to set their expectations that maybe you need to pay attention for a little bit more, maybe 5 more minutes, and then you'll get a break, or 5 more minutes, and then you'll get an exercise. So that would get them to engage a little bit more with the session.
Oh, that's brilliant. You are the first one I hear that doing breathing exercise in meditation. That's excellent, because you're right. It's impossible to pay attention for 2 hours, 3 hours. Sometimes we have 4 hour sessions, really. And you lead these meditations, so you are on board to have them.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's usually a slide that is that I just put on the screen where they can follow the breathing exercise, or if it's just a matter of giving them 5 minutes and I ask them to walk around, get up from their seats and walk around. Some students don't like to do it, and it's absolutely fine. But to give the students that sense of refreshment, so they're not just sitting on a chair for about 3 hours. If we have a 3 hour session or 2 hours, it is very important to get that activity in the classroom, even if it's a very small activity. It
I
makes
love this.
a
I
big
love this, Sandy. I
difference.
really, we all need this, by the way. And if I understand well, you plan in advance. So there's a schedule for that session that, okay, now you deliver a little bit of lecture type, then the breathing exercise, then and then an activity, then back to it. So you don't deliver 2 hour lecture and then the seminar, but it's all together. You have a plan how you do it in advance. And they also know that, right? That's
Yeah,
really, really
set
good.
their expectations.
And
Yes.
in terms of the activities, I'd be happy to hear more from you. So what kind of activities? You can also share some, I don't know, subject specific ones, or what do you do? How do you bring it to life in the classroom, the topics?
Right. So some activities are, for example, to sustainability related would be to make it a little bit more personal to the student. And I find it very engaging to the students, not to just talk about the topic from a professional perspective, but also what do they see in their personal life, especially if the student doesn't have experience in the industry yet. So making it a little bit more personal, it gives them that practicality and it engages them more with the topic. So, for example, with sustainability, I asked them in one of the activities to go online and find a specific calculator for the carbon footprint. And then they would spend about 5 minutes filling out a questionnaire to find their carbon footprint. And it just calculates based on their what transportation mode do they take to the university, for example. If they have a car, what kind of engine is it? An electric car? Is it a petrol car? What kind of diet do they follow, for example? Do they do a flexitarian diet? Do they do a vegan diet? Is it a normal kind of carnivore diet? And what's the carbon footprint of that diet? And just answering, yeah, a few different questions about their personal life to kind of bring that engagement from a personal perspective, that they would engage with the topic. So it's not just talking about how sustainability is for the business, how do we calculate the carbon footprint for a company and the company's activities. When we bring in that personal aspect, it engages the students a lot more to the topic.
No, absolutely. That's really good. I'd like to have that link. I'd like to see now also
Absolutely.
my carbon footprint. No, I really like that a lot. It's really good. And are there any issues? So when a student, you mentioned that not everybody likes a certain topic or might not cooperate or engage. Do you have some tips on how to involve everybody? What to do with those who are a little bit like more shy or not engaged?
So I approach being shy versus not engaging in different ways. So if a student is just feeling shy because they might be this is their first year, or it might be because English is not their first language, it's a different culture, different education system. They might be an introverted, they have an introverted personality, so they're not very comfortable in maybe public speaking. So in that sense, they want to engage, but they are reserved because of certain barriers. So I try to, in a bigger classroom, if it's a 100+ type of classroom, I try to integrate digital tools
Like
in
what?
order for them to answer the questions. So using things like Microsoft Forms or Mentimeter, for example, so they can scan a QR code and answer the question. So that means that they are engaging and they're answering the question, regardless of whether they might be a little bit shy in answering the question publicly. Not being engaged, I think, comes from a different kind of issue, which means that maybe the content might not be interesting or boring for the student. Maybe I've been talking for a little bit longer than I should, and maybe I should be giving more breaks or more activities. So it's a different approach in not engaging with the session. And as a result of this, I might try and sometimes if the context allows it, if they're not engaging, I might try to joke, and then based on everyone laughing, I see them nudging the next person and say, oh, what are you laughing about? So that is one side of it, if the context allows. But on another side, it kind of indicates a different issue, which means that maybe some of the activities need to be a little bit more engaging. Maybe I need to give more breaks during the classroom to get them to try and engage more with the topic.
And it's interesting that you see what you could do differently to engage the student, right? That's a very nice way of doing it. And what is it that you could do more? So you think that the humor has a place in the classroom? It's very
Absolutely.
refreshing too. So you do that. You
Absolutely.
you like a
Absolutely.
good
Yeah.
laugh. Yeah.
I like to connect with the students. If I'm not enjoying the session, I don't think the students are going to enjoy the session. So I always try to be in a good mood. I try to make sure that I speak a little bit before the sessions. For example, if I have a 9 o'clock session, I try to wake up a little bit early have a conversation with colleagues to kind of wake up to be energetic in the classroom, to get them to enjoy. So I'm a firm believer that if I don't enjoy the session, I'm 100% sure that the students are not enjoying either. So absolutely, humor has a place in the classroom. Enjoyment has a big place in the classroom because it contributes to the students engaging more, loving what they are learning about, and wanting to engage with the topics and learn more about it.
Yeah, no, your passion is absolutely contagious, and your smile. And speaking of which, you mentioned enjoy, and sometimes it's a long day, and you have it in the afternoon. What do you do to keep yourself really, enjoy it and really pumped up and have the energy? Do you have some techniques for that as well?
It's a very important thing to kind of keep in our minds as lecturers or teachers, because it's we are always facing the students, and no matter what kind of is going on around in our days, we still have to deliver with a smile on our faces and try to engage the student to ensure that they're having a good experience. So some of the things that I do, for example, as I mentioned, if I have an early class and I'm not a morning person at all, I try to wake up a little bit earlier. So I would wake up at like 6 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, just to get myself to get that energy by the time I reach my 9 o'clock session. If it's in the afternoon, because I'm a night person, I absolutely love my afternoon classrooms. And I try to take my breaks to get my own walk around campus or my breathing exercises. If I'm not in a good mood, I try to make sure that I engage in something that would make me feel a little bit happier before I go to class, so that I'm not grumpy, for example, with the students. I'm not delivering while I'm not really feeling the whole delivery, because I know, and I'm sure it's going to be translated to the students. So I think it's different from one person to the other, what kind of activities they might do to help perk them up and get them to engage. But for me, a cup of coffee and a walk, just fresh air, would do the trick in a very short period of time.
It's a wonderful message that we can deliver only if we are all right, right? And we have to make sure that we are all right. It's a
Absolutely.
very, very good message.
Mm.
About the subject, your subject, sustainability, is very much relevant to the real world and what we are living in now. How, and speaking a bit about employability, and how do you make sure that this is something that they can right away use when they apply for jobs and have their first job? How do you make that link and make sure that employability is also embedded into the curriculum?
This is a very, very important point that we're trying to embed it more into the curriculum. However, one thing that I do on the side as part of my support to my students is to ensure that they know that they have the space to come to me whenever they are preparing for their interviews, or preparing even for applying for jobs. So what I do with them, and I've had several students, which I'm really proud of, that they come to me when they are interested in a specific job, and they would ask me if they can prepare with me. So part of it is ensuring that I can maybe help them with tailoring their CVs to a specific job and their cover letter, ensuring that they understand how companies recruit, so the process of the recruitment and the selection process, what different phases they can go through. What kind of questions they might come across in a job that has to do with sustainability and supply chain, understanding the different skills that they need to portray to the interviewer in order for them to showcase their relevance to that specific job. One of the things that I was actually talking about a few days ago is the fact that sustainability is a relatively new topic that we are trying to embed in curriculum, and we're trying to embed in programs, because it's quite an important topic for companies and for the world in general. So that's kind of integration of sustainability comes with maybe a little bit of a skills gap. We're still in the process of trying to make that sustainability a bit more connected to the industry and what the companies actually want from students and what do they want students to know about sustainability and how they can apply it in the real world. So what I'm doing now is I'm trying to do this on a student by student basis. When they are interested in something that has to do with sustainability, I try to support them um, uh, outside of the classroom in preparing for jobs, but I'm also in conversations with colleagues on how we can integrate this in the curriculum to prepare the students before they actually finish the course to understand how can they apply this to the companies. And one of the suggestions would be to bring the industry, to bring companies in to have this conversation with them. What do you need the students to know? And from there, we can embed this in the curriculum more. So it's not just about theories and it's not just about sustainability in general, but what the companies want and kind of bridge that skills gap that we're seeing maybe students are struggling with.
That's a wonderful idea. And I know how much time you spend with students also outside of the class. So I have to ask, how do you manage, how do you set boundaries if you do? Because obviously it can be overwhelming. So do you have some tips or any kind of boundaries, or you are available to everybody all the time?
No, to be honest, being available as much as I would love to be available all the time and support all students at any time they need to. As I mentioned earlier, it's very important to kind of be careful about my own well-being as well. So setting boundaries and making sure that my mental health and well-being is also considered in that. So setting boundaries and how I manage it is by setting expectations from the very beginning. So that is in general with any student, even when I start the classroom, setting expectations is a big thing, so that I'm not disappointing anyone further down the line. So, for example, saying that these are my office hours, you would expect feedback from me within this time frame. If you need help or support in this type of task or manner, then expect it to take this amount of time. And surprisingly, students actually go by this expectations and go by this kind of information that I provide in the beginning of the semester or in the beginning of the interaction. And it helps a lot with their time management and my time management as well.
That's a very good message.
Mhm.
Managing expectations, setting expectations. Thank you very much. Let's talk a bit about research, as you are a keen researcher as well. And in terms of helping students research, I know that you supervise dissertations. Do you have some tips there? How to help students in a way that it's still their research, but you are there to help them? What are your techniques with that?
Absolutely. Dissertations, it depends on whether they are undergraduate or postgraduate students. I feel like undergraduate students carrying out a project with this magnitude require a little bit more support. Um, but either way, my general approach with dissertations and research students is time management as a big thing, giving them techniques and tools to help them manage their time.
So can you share some? What kind
So
of
Pomodoro technique is a big tool for me that I use personally. So Pomodoro technique is about setting a specific time, usually about 20 minutes, and then taking 5 minutes break. Sometimes if it requires a little bit more focus, I take 60 minutes or 50 minutes and then 10 minutes break. So time management using Pomodoro technique, which where you have an alarm that will go off after 20 minutes or 45 minutes, depending on the task to remind you that you need to take a break. So that's one thing. Another part of time management is to understand the task. So see what the final goal that we need to get to, which is, for example, writing 15,000 words by week 12 or within 12 weeks or within 6 months and work our way backwards. So that means that every week I need to write a specific number of words. So I cannot finish the week without having done that bit, which is a small goal. When you look at it in the grand scheme of things, it will help us get to that final goal without being overwhelmed or stressed. So that's another big thing or tip about time management. So time management and trying to also work with what the students' weaknesses might be or areas of development might be. And I can then tailor my approach to what can help them personally. Another thing is to ensure that the message that I say to myself is the same that goes out to them, ensuring that their health and well-being is prioritized. So I always say you don't have classes, you don't have anyone to tell you have to wake up at this time or you have to study at this time. You are the boss of yourself, so you have to ensure three things on top of your studies. Rest, so you have to sleep, nutrition, you have to eat, and you have to exercise. Exercise meaning even a walk around the block just for 10 minutes is considered exercise. Do these three on a daily basis along with your studying. And if you can do this throughout your dissertation time, whether that's for 3 months or 6 months, it's going to be much better than trying to go around and stressing yourself out a week before you have to submit without really sleeping or eating. Whatever happens, these three things are non-negotiables. So this is another thing, another tip that I try to portray and reinforce with research students specifically, because I find it can be lost in the middle of not knowing what to do on top of like trying to figure out how to manage a project with that magnitude for the first time. And along with other difficulties, these three things are essential, but can definitely be lost in the middle of this whole chaotic process.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Sandy, for mentioning mental health and time management and all the other things. Very, very useful. I think a lot of us needed to hear that. So thank you very much. I could listen to you forever. I love learning from you. Really fascinating teacher and colleague. Thank you very much for being here in the academic room. I'm letting you go back to your busy work. And thank you everybody for listening to this episode. See you at the next one.